Bases dropped for another week, another round, another go-round, another week of stuff. The official term. Nothing like a Monday. John here, Jarrett there. Jarrett's going to be drifting in and out since it is a Monday after a U.S. men's national team match. I wholly anticipate Bart Keeler joining us at 9:30, and we might have some additional folks hopping in this morning, and so that'll be fun to catch up on stuff. But Jarrett, and I know, and I'll bring this up to get Bart's perspective first and foremost. I guess this classifies as our opening kickoff, brought to us by our friends at Kickoff Coffee, kickoffcoffeeco.com. Don't forget that you can follow them at Kickoff Coffee CO on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram. But use the code SoccerDownHere15. You get 15% off of any purchase that you have with our friends at Kickoff Coffee. And at the same time, they take 10% of their proceeds, roll them over into the youth game. Very, very cool stuff from our friends at Kickoff Coffee and at kickoffcoffeeco.com. So, like I said, I know that we'll ask Bart about it when he drops by, the next time he drops by. Like I said, anticipating at the bottom of the hour. But first and foremost, I want to give a shout out to everybody that showed up at Wild Heaven on Saturday or Friday. Yeah, Black Friday. Wow. It's weird when you got a weekend that's kind of screwy like that after a holiday Thursday. Black Friday at Wild Heaven. I think the reports, Jarrett, were that there were 2,000 folks that ended up showing up for the USA-England match. And, we were there as part of the kickoff of the whole thing. And, shout out to American Outlaws, to Wild Heaven, to everybody who made it there. Finding a place to park, if you were not there like 9 hours ahead of time, it was truly an adventure trying to figure out where to park. And so, no, it was good to see you, Nix, at Wild Heaven and Morning Will. But no, it was very, very cool to see all of you folks, drop by and be a part of things and wear the stars and stripes. And it was great to be there with Jason and Jess and Jarrett and just, kind of be and Mike Conti, was a part of, dropping in and everything. And, but no, it was very, very cool to see everybody there on Black Friday. At least for me, since I was there for the first half, got to see Greg Garza, who was hanging out with us for a little while too. But, yeah, I got to hang out till halftime. Then I had to go do high school football. But now shout out to everybody with American Outlaws and Wild Heaven. We'll get more details with Bart when he drops in to kind of break everything down. But, as always, traditionally here on the show during the World Tournament, where right now, early second half, Ghana and South Korea, the Ghanaians lead 2-0. Sully Sue is he's got, I think it's 5 matches in international competition for his native country, and he's got 2 goals, and I think he has 2 goals and I think 57 competitions for Southampton. So just very, very cool stuff this past weekend. The first match this morning was absolutely just bananas crazy, and so we get into that. We'll get into anything that you guys want to get into. So Emilio coming in this morning against Iran. Does the U.S. wait until the 70th minute before realizing they need a W? Didn't they need a few last-minute dramatics to draw during qualifying? Yeah, I think they're just going to – Emilio, I think they're just going to make us all, have heart palpitations. I think that's part of their thing. It's just we're going to wait until the absolute bitter end, or when the moments where we have to sit there and figure out, okay, what do we need to do to get a result? We can get into permutations and things like that as we go, but for that final match, USA and Iran, obviously there's a lot of stuff there with Group B, England on top of the group, Iran, Wales, and the U.S. can all still qualify. Wales would need to beat England on Tuesday to have any chance of progressing. England will progress as group winners with a victory. Draw would also be good enough for the top of the group if USA-Iran ends in a draw as well. As long as England avoids a 4-goal defeat or greater to Wales, they will reach the last 16. Iran can advance if they avoid defeat to the United States. Wales do not win. And the USA, once again, USA, we know this. USA win and in to reach the last 16. So that's the permutations out of Group B. And, we can go through all the permutations. We probably will in hour number 2. But there's, just, and I know you guys are fired up this morning, which was the fun part of all of this. Don't pull in Canada where you score early and leave the building late. Then Will going to be exactly like 2010. Pulisic's going to have to do a Landon Donovan. Michael Head for the umpteenth time. Can the U.S. score? And Greg Berhalter had his press conference a little bit ago, and get into the details of that as well. And Shooter says that Clint Dempsey's right when he says we should put Weah at striker. And so I guess since we've gotten into this, we'll go ahead and get into the comments this morning from Greg Berhalter and what 3GB had to say in his press conference. I'll give you the greatest hits with personnel. He said that the USMNT, and this is about a half hour ago, courtesy of Sam Stejskal and everybody else that was at the press conference. Men's national team haven't really thought about moving Reyna, Pulisic, Weah, or Morris or anyone else to striker. They're focused on the 3 that they brought, Sargent, Wright, and Ferreira. And that's probably the biggest thing that has come out of it so far. There was another moment in the presser, and like I said, I did not see the press conference. This also happened this morning. An Iranian reporter criticized Tyler Adams for mispronouncing Iran, then asked him if he's comfortable representing the United States when the country has such a history of racism against black people. Adams gave a measured response, and so when that's posted, you don't get those kind of questions at pre-match press conferences. So when that response is fully out there in all of its words, so then we get into that as well. So that was the stuff that happened this morning. That's kind of the greatest hits that happened in the press conference. But the biggest takeaway from what you were saying, Michael, focused on the 3 that they brought, Sargent, Wright, and Ferreira. And the U.S. haven't really thought about moving anyone into the striker position. So there's that this morning. And Shooter, looking at Matt Turner, needs to stop playing so much with his feet. And glad that you guys, once again, and glad that you guys are, in the comments, as you guys always are, catching up with one another there, seeing one another. And that's what part of this is the idea that, when we have those kinds of things that are public and we have these kinds of meetings, that you end up seeing what's up with the soccer community that we have here. And it is as large as it is. And the fact that, you might know somebody by a Twitter handle, you might know somebody by a handle in the Twitch pitch or in the Discord or something like that. And then you get to see them in person. And then your world has expanded that much more. And to see that on Black Friday with everybody just kind of congregating and hanging out by the stage, I thought it was very, very cool. So, and so 55th minute, Will's saying that South Korea almost got one back. Shooter, obviously not a fan of Josh Sargent, if I could say that 10 times fast. So, David, Canada's out. Mexico's barely alive. The U.S. controls its fate. Costa Rica, the CONCACAF leader, yikes. But remember, David, they've got that big goal difference that they suffered against Spain. So it would take something fairly Herculean for them to get into the get into the knockouts. But yeah, I mean, it's been a bit of a rough go for CONCACAF. And so so we got that this morning as well. Early this morning, it was absolutely crazy with Cameroon and Serbia. Serbia was listed as a minus 141 in the juice boxes. Cameroon was a plus 430. Your draw was a plus 277. The draw was correct, but only because after being up 1-0 and down 3-1, Cameroon and Serbia end up in a 3-3 draw this morning, which was just absolutely crazy to see everything that went down with that. Let me run through I'll run through the rundown for all right. So you had a goal by Cameroon in the 29th minute, made it 1-0. Then Serbia comes back and scores 3 in a row, 2 before intermission, 1 at 45 plus 1 by Milinkovic Savic at 45 plus 3 to make it 2-1. Then Mitrovic scores, Alexander Mitrovic scores to make it 3-1 in the 53rd minute. Then 2 goals in 3 minutes from Abubakar and Choupo-Moting. 3-3 final. So just, for those of you that were up at 5 o'clock this morning, I really give you a lot of credit for being up that early to go through what happened this morning in the first match of the day. So Cameroon and Serbia just went absolutely nuts, and it ends up with a 3-3 draw this morning. So you had that going on. And I'm trying to get the permutations coming into this morning. So that's G and H. And nothing like scrolling down because I know that makes fantastic radio. With Cameroon and Serbia going in, they now have, let's see, Cameroon and Serbia, they got that particular draw this morning. So let me grab the standings really quickly with Cameroon and Serbia. And that gets us to, goodness gracious, John, where are you? Cameroon and Serbia, Group G. Goodness. Okay, so match day 2. Cameroon and Serbia pretty much solved nothing. They went from no points to 1 point. And they are both 3rd and 4th right now. Goal difference, Cameroon's one better than Serbia, -1 to -2. Brazil and Switzerland right now, they are at 3 points each, and they play later today. And so after match day 2, then we'll come up with our permutations there as well. And also Group H is today, Portugal, Uruguay, and with South Korea and Ghana playing right now, 30 minutes to go. Portugal, Uruguay, Brazil, and Switzerland. Those are your other 2 matchups today in the World Tournament, as it was. Yeah, and there we go. South Korea 2-1. Thank you. 2-1 game on. And as I sit here and look off to my left shoulder, because we can't do play-by-play. So you're looking at right now 2-1 Brazil and Switzerland, just to give you your juice boxes heading into those 2 particular matches. Brazil's at a -204. Switzerland is a +650 in the composite, and your draw's a +330. Portugal is even money +100 at 2 o'clock. Your draw's a +237, and Uruguay is a +316. And so when Bart comes in, we'll talk about the United States. And we'll talk about the match with England. We'll talk about anything that's on your mind when it comes to the U.S. men's national team, with the press conference this morning that we had with Greg Berhalter. We'll get into that. At some point this week, I want to get into the Katie Meyer lawsuit with, I know this is off the beaten track with the world competition going on, but at some point this week, probably in an hour number 2 somewhere, I want to get into the Katie Meyer lawsuit with Stanford. We'll get into that. We'll get into, obviously, before we get off the air today, we'll have gossip, rumor, and innuendo. We'll have players moving or players not moving, and we'll get into all of that stuff as well. But now, biggest thing that we can talk about this morning, since we haven't seen each other since Black Friday, is the U.S.-England match. Anything else that's on your mind when it comes to the competition? Because that's what morning, Sean. How's the golf game? And how is it? How was the holiday in Puerto Rico? Anything on your mind? Like I said, that's what I wanted to do with these shows, because we have games going on. We really can't necessarily talk about the games going on in a play-by-play sense, but anything that's on your mind when it comes to, wow, that was quick. So Korea has scored twice in a handful of minutes, And so, yeah, let's just continue to add to the madness that we've been having this morning, where, sure, 3-1 lead, and then it was a 3-1 lead, and all of a sudden it was 3-3 in game number 1. Now it's 2-2 after being down for most of the for the first 50-plus moments of the match. Korea with a goal from Cho with 30 minutes to go in the 61st minute. And marked by 2 defenders by Ghana and got up in the air. Back of the net. So a goal by Cho with 30 to go. Korea and Ghana are dead solid even. Golf was great, nice view. Still 3 more Puerto Rico days to go. Yeah, I mean, honestly, Nix, you have 2 guys that are just kind of standing there, and Cho beats them both to the ball at the back post, and it goes in. And so now we're tied. And so 30 minutes to go, and the drunkenness continues with 6 goals in the morning and the first match this morning. And so we've had in 150 minutes of action, we have had 10 goals already this morning here in in the competition that's going on in Qatar. So, like I said, anything on your mind, traditionally, that's how we are. And, it'll be fun and interesting, as it always is, to hear what you guys think about the weekend, and not just about the United States, but anything else on your mind as we, continue to roll through and see what's going on here when it comes to the World Tournament. Garrett Southgate admitted that he loves Phil Foden, believes he'll be an important part of play at the World Cup. He was an unused substitute for England in the draw against the United States, and obviously not using him drew a lot of criticism. Ahead of Tuesday's match against Wales, Garrett Southgate said he has no issue with Phil Foden. Why would you? He's yet to start in a match in Qatar. He told ITV, "We love Phil. He's a super player. He was into the first game. We decided not to put him into the second, but he's going to play an important part in this tournament for us. There's no question about that. We haven't got any issue with Phil. In September, he started both games for us. We put him into the game versus Iran. We decided to stick with that team. We felt the changes required something a little different for the USA, but we're intending to be here as long as we can. And he's a super player, and we think the world of him. And he's going to play a big part. He can play off either wing. He can play as a false 9. He can play behind a striker. Doesn't do that as often for his club. Works hard for the team, and, of course, he has a fabulous technical ability." So, once again, you have Garrett Southgate saying all the right things, and everyone wondering, dude, why didn't you play Phil Foden? So that's what we're staring at here. So, as we work our way through this morning, Airborne DJ, so is the Busquets thing confirmed, just a rumor? And so, Nick's, nothing confirmed, no reliable sources yet. So, obviously we'll continue to keep an eye on that story as well as we're rolling our way through here this morning. So, yeah, I mean, and this is the other thing that we probably can get into yesterday, and this is from the Times. And, once again, take your sources, follow your sources, and, make sure that this goes down a certain path. Always check the numbers, but of course now with the social media being what it is on the Bird app, anything is possible. But just, go by the sources that are established and things like that. So, some folks right now are saying 99% done to enter Miami. 99% done, Sergio Busquets. So how's your signal?
I
Jarrett?
don't know. Huh?
I got you now.
I don't know. Everything crashed. Everything
Meaning
crashed,
like
and when I came back up, South Korea had scored 2 goals. I don't even have a Samsung phone, and they did that.
Exactly, I know. Yeah, so we've had in 150 minutes this morning, we've had 10 goals. 10. It was 3-1 in the morning. And then it turned into it was 1-0. Sorry, it was 1-0, 3-1, then 3-3 with Cameroon and Serbia. Then it was 2-0 with Ghana, and now we're at 2-2 after a couple of goals and after only a couple of minutes. So yeah, 10 goals in 150 minutes, basically in a match in 2/3 this morning, Jarrett. And everything continues to crash. Wow, Jarrett's really having a fun morning. It is a Monday. Yeah, and Nix, you're not wrong. Someone's going to need to look at Miami's books again if they pull the 2 deals off. The deal with Busquets, 99% done, according to Taylor Twellman. This is yesterday. This is yesterday about noon. Tells you that it's been a real possibility for a while. Additions with a new stadium on the horizon. Jorge Mas and the family are going for it in Miami. So that's what you're staring at. The other part, you have Juanma Castaño, who is also saying that it's the same thing. So, Jarrett, are you crashing this morning?
We're literally going to try this one more time.
Uh-huh.
I don't even know.
Yeah.
Nothing works.
No, except for apparently defense doesn't work either this morning.
Dude, this entire World Cup is getting progressively drunker, and I'm here for it. I endorse this, as you all know. Again, I am a fan of any team that has never played a normal sporting event in their life. This entire World Cup has been completely off the rails, and I love it.
Yes. So this morning it was 1-0, then it was 3-1, and then in 2 goals in 3 minutes it ended up being 3-3. And then this morning in the match number 2, it was 2-0, and then 3 minutes later in the 60s it was 2-2. So yeah, 10 goals in 150 minutes this morning, which means probably that the other 2 matches this morning are just going to be like goalless draws, and they're going to bore us to death. But that's just
that's kind of what I'm thinking too. So,
but no, this morning, Tom Russo has brought in the Sergi Busquets rumor to Inter Mas FC, and yesterday it was said by Taylor Twellman, 99% done. Juanma Castaño from Cope Movie Star, 332,500 followers on the Twitters, that Sergi Busquets is going to sign for Inter Mas next season. So he's going to be a part of the whole Beckham thing next year. And it goes into the story from the Times that you have that possibility that Messi could be coming this year. But I think that we were talking about it, but Guillaume Balage, I think, is probably the guy that you can probably look at here with, why not? We've been talking about it forever, but Busquets looks like he's going to be coming through the door first, and the probability, maybe, perhaps, of Messi coming over after this year. So that's what it's looking like. Now, again, Balage yesterday. The story is, and this, Matt Lawton from the Telegraph, Inter Miami close to agreeing to a deal with Lionel Messi, with the U.S. club confident that the Argentine superstar will sign after the World Cup in Qatar. Expect Messi to move from PSG at the end of the European season in a deal that will make him the highest paid player in the history of MLS. So, Guillaume Balage. The story is that Inter feel they are close to a deal with Messi. Confident Leo will sign, as Balage is looking at what Matt Lawton has written, and he's looking at the key verbs here. But Messi will decide his future after the World Cup, January and June. PSG also confident he'll accept a 1+1 deal, a year with an option. Barcelona have offered nothing. So that's from Guillaume Balage, as everyone is sitting here and thinking that Messi would be the next one through the door, Jarrett. But it looks like Busquets will be the one that will be coming through the door first.
But see, at some point I need Bart or Nick or Jason or somebody else to back me up here when I tell you that the amount of suicide involved in this is higher than probably necessary, depending on how Inter Miami would use Sergio Busquets. Busquets, great player. Busquets also, like many before him, will not defeat time.
Yes, that is true. And speaking of this past weekend, Bart Keeler's now with us. And
Bart, Sergio Busquets in MLS. Can we discuss the degree to which people will run past him with reckless abandon and extreme prejudice if they do not set up specifically to protect him in the midfield?
I mean, we saw it yesterday, right, with Germany getting by him very easily. Yeah,
it's not even a run. It's more of a saunter.
Yeah, it's more of a unbothered.
Everybody's just kind of cruising past him.
Yeah, that would be a problem for any MLS. I mean, look, the dude is in his final World Cup. He's probably in his final actual professional season. So, like, why are we trying to make him come to MLS? Messi to MLS makes a whole lot of sense. Not Busquets though. Leave him. Let him just retire in Spain. Send him to Ibiza or Mallorca and let him just enjoy the rest of his life.
All right. So, what I wanted to talk about first, Bart, I want to go back to Friday. But before we talk about the game on Friday, I want to talk about the event on Friday. And the number that you posted was 2,000.
Yeah.
That's so 2,000.
That's our best guesstimate. Obviously, we sold 1,500 tickets to the event. Obviously they were free, but 1,500 people said they'd show up. It became very apparent that with the 4 viewing areas we had, there were many more people than 1,500. So between the outside area, which really did allow us to kind of push that number a lot higher than we thought it was going to be. The rain stopped. We were able to have the outside viewing areas. That plus the Wild Heaven tap room, the private event space, both upstairs and downstairs, and then the major, garden room warehouse facility. Yeah, 2,000 people is a little bit of a high estimate. I'll be the first to say, but I work in marketing and we don't do things on the low end. So
there you go. But no, a big shout out to the American Outlaws and the Flood Project and all the moving parts it took to make that happen. And obviously thanks to you guys for letting us come and crash and be the pregame show when it came to Ghana scored again.
So I just missed a goal. Yeah.
Ghana scored. Yeah. So
thank you to you all for coming. I know that definitely added a cool vibe to the event and people enjoyed it. And thanks to everyone who did show up, because I'm still floored that we had 2,000 people show up to, a U.S. men's national team watch party. I know we've supported Atlanta United greatly throughout the years. I know we've seen Mexico sell out Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but to have that many people, want to come to a U.S. watch party is great. And, not to take all the fun, because there were watch parties for that game throughout the city, and that's fantastic to see as well. I mean, it's fantastic that there are people who care about not just the sport in this country, but also our national team, because these guys deserve it, to be quite honest. This national team is one that I think more than any before truly represents our country in a great way. And, I think we're making great progress on that front, and they're good guys to actually support.
Man, so Yeonmin's son has scored to make it 3-2, and so we're staring at, let's see, we have 11 goals in 163 minutes in the first 2 games today.
Yeah, this is an insane day of soccer. They're like, to all those people that one Twitter person who decided to say that a 0-0 draw was boring because she's used to watching the Pittsburgh Steelers draw tie in regular season. She needs to watch these games. Although I would still say that 0-0 draw was very exciting and, a representation of 2 really good teams going at it.
Yeah. So we've got this. And so I'm kind of peering over my left shoulder at a better angle than you have over your left shoulder.
I can kind of see it in my screen. So that's what I'm going to shift over so I can watch. But, I mean, the event Friday was fantastic. It was
big save.
It was fantastic to see so many people again, just they're really just there to watch soccer, right? I mean, I'm still astounded I'm still astounded whenever I go to an Atlanta United game and we actually have, 40,000 people, because growing up as a kid, I was told soccer would never make it in this country, told that it was just some commie sport that no one liked. So the fact that we're here and we had 20 million people total watch that game between English and Spanish language broadcasts, plus streaming, that's That is incredible, John. That to me shows you how much this game has grown, and we've set a lot of good numbers for even the Wales game. But hey, hopefully we get more on Tuesday because the job's not done. And that's where the anxiety is kicking in, man.
All right, so let's go backward before we go forward. And now that you've had a couple days to kind of cruise and think about it and perhaps regain your voice. Oh, by the way, what is the mug this morning?
Oh, we've got Happy Holidays.
Okay.
Happy Holidays, y'all. We are officially in holiday season. My tree is up. But 2 trees up, actually. We put 2 trees up in the apartment this year. I put up one. Boyfriend put up one. His is mine's a little bit classier, I will say. But the wreath is on the front door. The holidays are beginning.
So it's good that and we're transitioning here at the office from the Thanksgiving milieu. I think we're getting our food tonight, and I think then that's when the big 6-footer in the den and everything. All right, now that you've had a couple days to recapture your voice and pull back the curtain a little bit and just kind of analyze what happened with the United States and England, what are some of your takeaways just from that? Before we go forward, what are some of your takeaways looking backward?
So I think I'm going to look back, I guess, on the 2 matches as a whole and just say that while the performances were very good, I think even watching back the Wales match, that second half was better than I think a lot of people thought it was, because in the moment you're just full of dread. But I think we played 2.5 really good halves of soccer, right? I think we played 2.5 good halves of soccer combined, right, out of the 4. But at the end of the day, we still haven't won, and you've got to win on Tuesday. So I think that match was a great representation of where we are as a program, where we can compete with the big dogs. Beating them would still be hard, but I think if you felt after that match the U.S. could have won, I think you'd be right. We had better chances. I think England had more chances technically. They did have more of the ball. They had more possession, but as we in Atlanta have learned, possession is only as good as what you do with it. And England didn't really do much with their possession. And we still look like a team punching above our weight a little bit in those matches, but we looked very confident and comfortable on the same field as, guys who are regarded as the best players that have ever played that position by people who live in England.
And looking at ratings, I'm going to go with our friends once again at Soccer America, who we have both applauded and then thumbed our nose at.
Yeah.
So across the board, Matt Turner with a 6, got the overhead crosses, reacted quickly to Mason Mount's shot from 20. So Matt Turner got a 6. The back line got a 6 across the board. Tim Ream got a 7. Before we get out of the defenders, Tim Ream was roundly panned for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And in this tournament, he has really shown up to be one of the more steadying forces at the back.
So I think the first thing I would say is I don't think we were wrong to say that Tim Ream was a little past it, because we saw him in that Nations League final against Mexico get absolutely washed by Diego Lainez, not once, but twice. And at that point, he looked slow and not bad. I mean, I don't think you could say he was a bad defender. He was just slow because at that point he was 34. He has improved his game greatly since he started coming into the Premier League this season. I don't know what he did this summer to turn back the clock so many years as he did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think so. I think you can both say, in 2021 in June, you said, Tim Ream, thanks for your service, but man, I think the game has passed you a little bit on the international level. And then, because at that point, the evidence said that. But a year plus later, you can absolutely say that the man is an integral part of this team and has stepped up his game, because he has. And it's okay to say that because players also change over time. So your opinion should change over time. And Homeboy has done fantastic to somehow get back to a higher level of play at 35 years old, which is fantastic. I didn't know you could do that. I'm just glad that I can walk after playing games at this age. So, I don't know how he's playing multiple World Cup matches like this, but he's been great. I think he's also, and I'll put Walker Zimmerman in this as well. And I know Walker had a mistake in the first game, but between the two of them, they are, if Tim is the grandpa, like Walker is either the dad or the cool older brother, like one of those two roles where like, oh yeah, like he's a little bit more level-headed and experienced, but he is going to be a little bit more energetic and passionate than Tim. And they do pair really well. It also, again, it helps that they are basically twins. So, I think the opposition is having a hard time figuring out who's who. And together, they've just made a really good partnership more than anything.
So Walker'd be like the cool uncle, maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
Something like that. Just where if you got grandpa, then there's always the dude that's always, he'll be the one to sit there and it's like,
yeah. I don't know. I'll give him cool dad. I think he can be cool dad. He's, he's the dad, that will tell you, he'll tell you when he's disappointed, but he's also going to tell you when he's proud of you, which I know, some of us never really got a hold of that in life.
Yeah, exactly. I know, right there with you, brother.
I'm kidding. My dad's great.
7s across the board on the midfield. Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams, Eunice.
That's false. No, Tyler Adams gets a 100. I don't know what the rating level is. Tyler Adams gets a 100. The man was by far the best soccer player on the planet that day. And the joke of 70% of the world is covered by water, the rest is covered by, that's bullshit. Tyler Adams covers 100% of the world. He can he can run on water, all of that. Tyler Adams he was fantastic. He is fantastic. He is the USMNT captain, and I am so proud of him. So proud to have him on this team. Anyone who puts him below a 10 is being a complete and total just buffoon because they're trying to be freaking analytical and all this bullshit. No, Tyler Adams gets a 10 or more. I will die on that hill.
So you're saying Tyler Adams gets a 10?
I mean, I'd give him.
Has he let noted false 9 Harry Kane out of his pocket yet?
I don't think that he has stopped following Harry Kane. Like I think there's a picture somewhere of England's practice, and like he's just kind of popping up above Harry Kane.
I mean, like we talked about it before the game that, wasn't sure like how much he was going to be able to impact him or other guys in the midfield as they float around. Harry Kane's going to play a false 9 with that bum ankle. And look, Tim Ream a couple times came up and took a bite out of Harry Kane, and I liked it. Where Harry Kane was receiving the ball, he was just playing a one-touch ball to try and start something. And Tim Ream was up there basically like treating him like a stock car, like he was Dale Earnhardt, giving him a bump, giving him some contact, trying to keep him off balance.
Get him loose, get him into the wall.
Yes. But every time like he wasn't doing that, Harry Kane was having to drop so far back to get involved in play. Mm-hmm. And Tyler Adams was just there to be his nightmare. I loved it.
Yeah. Again, Tyler Adams, man, if you give him below a 10, I think you're just being I don't know what your problem is.
You're being a bleepity.
You're allowed to give ratings based on vibes. I'm sorry, you are. And Tyler Adams was fantastic. The rest of the midfield was good too, but Tyler Adams, no, man, he gets a 10. Sorry.
And then the forwards, Tim Weah got a 5, Haji Wright got a 4, Aronson got a 5 as a sub, Shaq Moore got a 4 as a sub, and Josh Sargent and Gio Reyna got the no ratings just because of the lack of minutes.
Greg what was Pulisic? What did they give Pulisic?
Let me see. What did they give Pulisic? Hang on, what's my tab? 7.
Yeah, that's fair. I think Pulisic was a little overrated that day, but I think he was still very good. Mm-hmm. I know he got Budweiser Man of the Match, which, again, should have been Tyler Adams. But, hey, you got to give it to the guy who has the biggest name, apparently, at the World Cup. Because
ask Kevin De Bruyne about that.
Yeah, I'm not
honestly think they gave it to him. I honestly think they gave it to him because he rattled the crossbar on that shot.
Yeah, he was the only person who came closest to scoring, so he gets
But that's the thing. I think that is the flaw in any kind of a judgment system. It's like, it's an offensive based award where Pulisic hits the crossbar, and it's like, you were the one who was closest to scoring, therefore you should get the award instead of looking at the match itself, like a Tyler Adams who probably should have gotten a 12. And, it's like, it's the goalless draw.
He should win man of the match alone for that tackle he had in, I believe it was the first half, second half, when we turned the ball over like 2/3 of the way up the field, Anthony Robinson had started his overlapping run, and he is so far upfield he can't get back. I mean, he does because he's Anthony Robinson, but like Tyler Adams, like a heat-seeking missile, just immediately beelines to cut out the pass. Not only does he get to the ball first, he makes a great slide tackle and puts it out for a throw in, and man, that alone was better than anything that anyone else on the field did that day.
So this morning, 3GB had his press conference, and
are we talking about this?
Yeah, we are. Kind of going from one way to the other. So Berhalter said that the men's national team haven't really thought about moving Raina Pulisic, way up Morris, or anyone else to striker. He's focused on the three that they brought: Sargent, Wright, and Ferreira.
Well,
I'm so mad you didn't bring Brandon. I'm so mad you didn't bring Brandon Vasquez. And don't tell me it's because of, don't tell me, well, we didn't have room for him because he didn't have chemistry. I'm not looking for chemistry. I want a poacher I can bring off the bench in the 85th minute when I'm chasing a goal, like I very might well be against Iran.
Yep. I'm with you in that. I'm concerned because neither of the strikers, I mean, I guess Sargent in the first game did have a glancing header that almost snuck in, but neither of the guys have really looked that close to scoring, It's been, granted, they haven't had as much service as they should. I guess to me that indicates Berhalter might start Ferreira against this team. I don't know if that's the best option. I think that to me is getting too cute, because I know that Ferreira will drop into the midfield and all that kind of stuff, but you're assuming then that Iran will send someone to follow him, and I'm telling you, I don't know that Iran will do that. I think that Iran in the first 10 minutes might go try to get a goal, because they can't just rely on a draw in this game, because that would mean that they would have to rely on Wales to lose to England, which I don't know if is a bet that I would want to take, because there's some age-old blood feuds going on in that match that you can't quantify any of that with ratings or player performances. Sorry, I thought we had a goal.
No, it was a replay of an injured player.
So I think if Iran is going to, quote, play for the draw, I don't think that'll happen until after the first 15-20 minutes, and then after that they'll probably just sit back. But I'm not convinced that Ferreira is the best option for that, because I also feel like watching this team, as long as we've watched this team, Jarrett, that we're going to just end up getting into get the ball wide, cross it into the box, and that's definitely not Jesus Ferreira's strongest point.
No, it's not. And this is why I will go back to the whole Brandon Vasquez. Greg has been maligned, sometimes I think unfairly, and I don't mean to I know I'm starting up pitchforks in my own direction. I think he has been maligned unfairly at times. And the reason I say that is because when you malign him for all of these little things that might not be as bad as you think they are, it takes away some of the venom of the criticism of things that he absolutely should be criticized for. If everything is a critical mistake, then nothing is. It's hard to differentiate between what is a minor flub and what is a, oh God, what are you doing, Greg, kind of moment. I'm going to stay pissed off that he didn't bring Brandon Vasquez or someone of that like, just a body in the middle. If you're going to get into this mode where I need a goal, it's the 75th minute or against Iran and it's scoreless, or it's 1-1 or maybe 2-2. I don't know. This whole World Cup's been drunk. And I need somebody who can either be a big body that I can target, or someone who, if that ball drops, I know he's going to be able to one-time it and get me something. Because this is something we talked about before the World Cup started, Bart. That the thing, when John asked us, what are we happy with? What are we concerned about? We were good with the goalkeeping. That's been good. I thought Matt Turner was really good against England, an England team that's great on set pieces. I thought he talked about it with Jester in the game. He was so decisive about when to come, when to stay, where he needed to be, getting people organized, not getting caught in traffic. But the strikers were our concern, and they remain our concern because they're not putting the ball in the back of the net. Similar to what the issues that Spain had. I mean, granted, like Spain's in good shape because they dropped the seven-shaped house on Costa Rica in game one. But they still have questions about, as they get into the tournament, who's going to continue to score the goals. We maintain the same thing with the United States, which is maddening because there's talent all over the place.
Yeah, and I won't go as far to say that Brandon Vasquez is absolutely the answer, but you're right in the sense that Brandon Vasquez is that type of player that would have given us
he's my example.
I mean, mine would be PFOC, but I think both of them are the type of guy. Like, I get that he's not going to, especially PFOC.
I'd have zero problem with PFOC.
Like, I get that he's not going to do a whole lot within the real flow of a game. I get this, but like, if the goal is to go score a goal, I trust Jordan PFOC more than I trust Haji Wright or Josh Sargent right now.
Yeah.
But it is still remains the biggest concern is who's going to score, because you're not going to get even that goal against Wales was fantastic. The likelihood we get that against Iran is very low.
10 minutes added. 10 minutes added for South Korea and Ghana.
I love it. Good for them.
11 billion minutes have been added.
This is what actually tracking stoppage time looks like. So everyone who wants to have that, this is what it looks like.
AF Waller. There are two sorts of philosophies for this Iran game. Play solid like we've been doing, try to convert those opportunities or change things up, turn up the aggressiveness, maybe go a bit more wild, be willing to give up some dangerous counterattacks if that's what it takes to score, and look to just score more if they convert some of those.
Again, I think for this first 15, 20 minutes, Iran will be trying to go get a goal because, again, they can't rely just on a draw. They also know that if they lose, they're out. Mm-hmm. So, they have to – they know that a draw will get them through, but I don't think if I were Iran, I would be comfortable just relying on a draw. And I think most people would say that playing for a draw is a good way to lose. So I think for the first 15, 20 minutes, it's going to look a little bit more like that England game where you're trying to weather the storm. But I think overall, we can play the game the way we did that Wales in the first half, and even the second half, to be quite honest, where it was they're going to most likely sit deep and try to find a way to go forward quickly. And if you can handle that, you'll be fine. I'm a little concerned about Ream and Zimmerman being able to do that against Taremi and the other attackers they have. But look, I think at the end of the day, this match we don't have to change our approach. That's why I don't necessarily think Ferreira is the answer, because I don't think we have to change our approach, because we did find ways to, I don't think any approach is going to somehow make this game against Iran easier to score. It's going to be tough to score. We just have to hope that we get into better positions and hope that the ball bounces our way, because we've had opportunities, we just haven't scored. I mean, we can talk about not scoring. Weston had a freaking, not a sitter, but a pretty wide open look in the middle of the box. We had, Pulisic bang one off the crossbar. We've had Sargent have a couple that maybe, could have gone in, and it just, we don't create enough chances. I don't know if Ferreira's the ticket to that or a different approach like that. I think if you want a different approach, maybe you do an attacking midfielder and two holding midfielders, because that allows your wing backs to get a little farther up without giving up that counterattack as easily. But even then, I'm not sure there needs to be a tactical overhaul. A little bit, do plan A better is kind of where we're at right now. But you do need to have a plan B in mind, which is something that we know Greg Berhalter doesn't like to do.
All right. So now it is that moment where it's been far too long since this particular individual. We're in the late fourth minute. Nothing's still going on, Bart. Well,
they got a corner kick.
Yeah, they got a four. Okay. So it's been too long since this guy's been a part of everything here at SDH. We welcome in, as a part of the tag in, tag out, a fatal four-way with Nick Alifi.
There we go.
What's up, Nick?
Oh, man. This game, that's what's up. This Korea-Ghana game is it's people are catching hands left and right. It's absolutely nuts.
Nick, I need a moment of your ability to turn a phrase.
All right.
You got to keep it safe harbor though. Like we're still pretend we are under FCC. Sergio Busquets in Miami trying to stay in front of attackers as they inevitably leave him hanging out to dry at least a few times.
What is that going to be like?
Yeah. Let's do this.
Yeah, it's going to be cocaine in a can is what it's going to be. It's exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be madness in a pure, distilled, crystalline fashion as this poor man who is used to attackers, moving to very crisp positions in order to, receive the ball and then immediately give it. And instead, these MLS forwards who are just going to be taking off down the field at warp drive. Yeah, cocaine in a can. That's the only way I can think of this.
Thank you. You can address other topics now. I just needed to hear
that. Thank you. I look forward to the DP situation for that. Hey, for how they're going to fit all of these players into the salary structure and or designated player categories. I think that's going to be.
Are you saying that Intermos FC has been funny with the financial constraints in Major League Soccer, Nick?
Look, things happen.
They're not the only one. Don't leave LAFC out of this.
Correct. Look, I have no problem. I have no problem if you are trying. Like, it's like college football. Everyone's doing it. Everyone's trying to find their advantage. I have no problem with the bagmen in college sports. I have no problem if you are finagling a contract and giving somebody a $2.3 million contract to be the gerbil keeper for the Moss brothers. It doesn't matter to me. I don't care. It's a $6.7 million contract to babysit one of the Moss kids. Great, good for them. It's a side hustle. I have no problem with that. But just be creative with it. That's it.
Can you outsource an outsourced contract?
I think you can. I'm pretty sure there's some kind of legal, little shell company, So yeah. The system's built for it. Exactly. Yeah. Financial proprieties are a feature, not a bug. It's part of the process.
Mm-hmm. See, this is what happens. This is what happens now that Jarrett has tagged out and Nick is tagged in for hour number 2, and Bart is caught in the crossfire of the tag in and tag out. We had a big save by the Ghanaians in the 7th minute.
Now we've got a Ghanaian who's hurt,
falling down all over the place.
That would be me right there.
Can you say that on television, sir? Wow, one of the Ghanaian players, Bart, it'll come up on your screen in about 15 seconds. But
I'm doing streaming on Peacock, so that's why I'm behind.
Yeah. So we had a Gianluca Pagliuca lip reading institute moment from one of the Ghanaian players. But now, Nick, we were talking about the U.S. and England, and Bart has been kind of let me get this one thing in from U.S. and England from Michael Head. Michael Head, the last free kick in the U.S.-England match was highly frustrating. Why not attack the goal?
Completely agree on that. It's the one I thought I've given 3GB enough stick over since the time of his hiring. I do have to give him some credit that for 99.7% of that game, I thought he handled it the right way. There was nothing more frustrating, though, when the camera cuts to Greg on the touch line and he's over there tapping his wrist saying, hold, hold, hold. I get that England had tremendous speed. You're afraid of the counter. You don't want something really stupid to happen in the last moment, but you have a chance to put the ball in front of the net and have magic happen on your end. You have to take that shot, and you have to try to beat these giants, quote unquote, when the situation allows itself. And the situation, presented there was put the ball in front of the net and have one of your people try to bang it in, and to sit there and say, hold it, and we're going to go for the draw. In Italy, there's a saying, and the former podcasting great David Amayala said it often, which is better 2 wounded than 1 dead. This is how people start the buffoonery of, well, the game's rigged, right? Well, because we both agree to walk out with the draw, and then, whatever happens against Iran happens against Iran. But
are you pronouncing that correctly? Apparently, that's a big issue with Iranian media.
As someone who has dated in a Persian girl before, I can tell you that they are huge on the pronunciation of the country.
Yes.
For because it goes, I think, back to the 80s when you had American politicians saying Iran, and so they are, she was a stickler. I think for like the first 2 or 3 dates, she goes, no, it's Iran, and it was like, okay, all right, yes, I understand. So, but look, this is going to happen. You know, these press conferences where you have two geopolitical foes lined up. You know, for those of us who are old enough, we remember the old Soviet Union and the press conferences for the Olympics with the Soviet media would ask American athletes all kinds of insane questions, you know, because it's all about the gotcha moment. But as we learned, the people of these countries do not equal the regime of these countries,
correct,
or the government of these countries. And
just look at the anthem from match day one.
Indeed, yes, but I think it is buffoonish to put that on anybody. You know, like Greg, why don't you call the Secretary of State and get that warship away from, from Iran's coast? And for people may say, well, that's really stupid, but keep in mind. Let's go back to when Pele called up. I'm trying to remember the African country that had a civil war going on. And Pele said, look, if you guys stop the civil war, I'll bring the Brazilian national team there. And we'll play a game. And the civil war was stopped. There was a ceasefire and the Brazilian national team showed up. So, I mean, stranger things have happened.
Yeah. I don't know if Greg has that influence on this country or quite
No,
yet.
he does not.
Whoa.
He does not. I think he has I think the most influence that Greg has is in the sportswear section of Macy's, and that's about it.
Yeah.
These are khakis and they're pleated, and I'm going to open an Excel spreadsheet now. He's like a walking middle manager on the touchline.
3-2 final, Bart. You're a little behind.
Yeah, I just saw it. Do we want to talk about that real quick, Nick?
Yeah, we can.
I think you're probably the one on this whole crew best equipped to discuss these issues.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just first say that this was super unnecessary from U.S. Soccer social media to pull this little, I'm not going to call it a stunt, but I think first off, it wasn't impactful at all, and didn't really make sense because it didn't send a message because there was no message with it. It was just a singular act that they tried to be cute with,
a piece of subtlety that did not work.
Yeah, and if you can't be subtle for these things, you have women who are facing death over these protests, and whether that's exaggerated or not is for other people to determine, really. But a subtle thing like, oh, we're just not going to have the national emblem on the flag seems incredibly, I don't know, it doesn't speak to the actual seriousness of the problems over there, and doesn't do anything. So first off, there's that. Secondly, this is not the time to do that. And I'll be quite honest, as someone who works in this field, I don't think that person is going to have their job past the World Cup.
So the question I have with this is, do we know for sure that it was intentional or a protest statement to remove anything from the flag? Do we know that for sure?
It seems like all signs point to that it was, but
okay.
we haven't had a statement from U.S. Soccer about it, and that's where I'm with you, Nick. It could have been they just pulled the wrong flag graphic, or thought that, hey, that little emblem doesn't really show up well. Maybe we find a different one that doesn't have it.
Yeah, I go back to it was the Olympics. I want to say, was it in Russia, where they had somebody from Kazakhstan won the gold medal, and they ended up playing the Kazakh
they
parody
played the
Kazakh theme, from the Borat movie. And so this poor person is up there, and they're talking about Kazakhstan, #1 producer of potassium. It's something where there's a couple of options here. One is that the person who was tasked with doing this is a buffoon and picked the wrong flag graphic, possible. 2, somebody said, LOL, I'm going to get mine in, ha ha ha, and made an adjustment. Both, in my opinion, mean that person should not be doing that particular job. Now, I don't ask for anybody to lose a paycheck. I don't.
Right.
But this person needs to be relegated to the sub-basement mailroom for a few months until they figure out the difference and understand that there are levels to this. More than just the game on the field, that you're talking about geopolitical rivals since the toppling of the Shah.
Late 70s here.
Right. And so, we can't, nothing here can be treated like a ho-hum thing, including the changing of a graphic.
Right.
And again, it wasn't necessary. I think is my biggest thing is this doesn't even send a message because, I don't think anyone understood that. To answer Will's point in the question in the chat, that flag itself was not the flag prior to the regime change, which by the way has been around for 40, 50 years. So like, it's not even like this is a new thing. From what I understanding, and Nick, you probably know better, but like the general template of the flag has been used in Iran for quite a few hundred years maybe, but it seemed like they've always had an emblem on it from the research I've been able to do. And so it's just like, it doesn't make any sense why this was your plan of action instead of making an actual public statement or something. There could have been something before or after the match between the players, because I will say, I think that the biggest thing is the Iranian players don't seem to be on the side of the Iranian state media.
And that goes to the point that we saw with them not singing the anthem on match day 1.
Right.
And to Nick's point about just because you see one thing, it doesn't mean that the other is true. There's no direct commonality or proportion to what you're seeing there sometimes.
But I will say this: when it comes to authoritarian regimes, one of the number one avenues for them to get their message out to a world stage is via sport. So I'll use, and as someone who is an number one Italy fan, this happened when the fascist regime in Italy was in charge. They made the Italians wear black kits. The players had to be put on fitness regimens to fitness regimens to look stronger and more powerful, to sing the national anthem in a full throat, to make sure that they project an image of unity and that an unassailable position that from an athletic standpoint, from a cultural standpoint, everyone is backing the regime. When you have players who are standing there silently while the national anthem is playing, and you have women in the crowd of an Islamic nation removing their hijabs, wearing the Iranian kit, I cannot tell you that's a moon landing moment for people who are against the Islamic regime in Iran. That it for us, we look at it and like, okay, they're silent. Okay, yeah, that's pretty tough. The woman is standing there without a hijab on in the crowd. People disappear on a regular basis in Iran.
Yeah.
If you remember the Parts Unknown episode where Anthony Bourdain goes and visits and he meets the Iranian journalist, not one bad thing was said about the regime of Iran. And the guy shortly thereafter was imprisoned he and his wife both were imprisoned for a while, him for certainly longer than the wife was. People disappear on a regular basis, and not everyone in Iran is Muslim. I have to say that there's a faith called a Baha'i, which is what which the girl I dated was. She's a member of that faith, and they have watched over the years as the Iranian regime has bulldozed cemeteries of the Baha'i faith in order to put forth the image of, there's only one regime, one way forward, and you're with us or against us. So for these players, not all of them may be Islamic, not all of them may be of that faith. Some of them may be Baha'i, some of them may be agnostic, who knows? But it's a moon landing moment when those boys stand up there and they don't sing that national anthem, because you in an authoritarian regime are not the only one who pays. Your friends pay.
Your family pays.
Your family pays. Kids may be sent off somewhere for quote unquote re-education. Grandma and grandpa may be sent to some pretty rough places, and all because you elected not to sing the national anthem. Now, for anybody who's going to criticize the players wearing the shirts, I strongly recommend you put yourself in their shoes for a moment and think about it from that perspective. When somebody gets, very militaristic about this whole thing. Look, I was in the Marines, went to Iraq, dealt with a number of internationals who had serious skin in this game. And I can tell you that the people right now are putting up a fight, a silent fight on a global stage to showcase, no, we are not completely in lockstep behind this regime.
Right.
And it takes, I'm sorry, to go outside the FCC rules, maybe bending a bit. These people have balls the size of the Death Star.
That's
I mean, it's unbelievable that the strength that they showed by doing
that. I just want to go back to the fact that this was super unnecessary and also doesn't really accomplish anything.
And we have yet to hear anything from the State Department or anything from a governmental agency saying, "Yeah, we approved of that. Yeah, you were doing something."
Well,
so
you're not going to get that because of FIFA. FIFA won't.
Well, yeah,
they don't want government interference.
Right.
And with that, sorry, Bart, I'll cede the floor back to you.
No, I mean, from reporting I saw, they didn't consult the State Department.
No, they didn't.
At least,
right.
Again, what do we do in U.S. soccer? But I also think that as dumb as this was, it's equally stupid for Iran to expect the U.S. to be kicked out of the World Cup for this because they're just mad because people called for their dismissal from the World Cup before the tournament, and they're just trying to get back at it.
No
and the questioning from the Iranian Iranian journalists to the U.S. players is clown shit, bro. That's a clown question, bro. You're not getting answers to that. And furthermore, we understand that your job is to just protect the interests of the government, which is, again, a problem that we could talk about. This is where politics and sports and free speech and all these things do get mixed up. But to ask Greg to move an aircraft carrier from the Gulf, come on, man. That's not happening. To ask all these things is they're doing it because they feel disrespected, as they should. Yeah. But you're asking the wrong people these questions. And they know it. They know it.
Yeah, but once again, it's all about in a world situation, in a world event, it is about that gotcha moment. Here's Tyler Adams' response, by the way, to the question when he was asked. Quote, "There's discrimination wherever you go. One thing I've become aware of having lived abroad, we, meaning the United States, have continued to make progress. Education is super important. It's a process, and as long as you see progress, that's the most important thing." That was Tyler Adams' response to that question.
A brilliant response. It's again going back to the Cold War. I'm trying to remember, and all the history junkies out there, I must say it was Kennedy who talked about the fact that on both sides of the Cold War, you had parents who loved their children and wanted to see a future for their children. There are people in Iran right now who want to see a future for their children where they can grow up happy and healthy, and that's not happening. And here in the United States, there are people who want their kids to grow up happy and healthy, and that's not happening. So, there are things that we can all work on, but the World Cup is not a place to be taking pot shots at a regime. It is not. You can talk about, if you want to stand up for, and somebody will point out, the issue with, with gay rights in Qatar and some of the other issues that have obviously taken place there that marred the start of the tournament and have been sort of hanging like a specter over the whole thing. And I think that's valid. But I also think that there's a difference between criticizing a host nation for some very egregious things and then taking a pot shot at a regime of a team you are playing. To me, it's why would you give that bulletin board material to them? One, because all of these authoritarian regimes do not show up with just a technical staff, a chef, and a couple chefs and a team. They have political minders there as well. And I can guarantee you that the political minder is talking to them beforehand saying, look, we're here away from the motherland, but they are watching.
Oh, absolutely.
And if we don't put on a show today, bad things are going to happen to us. You saw this, whether it was the narco football of Colombia, in 94, where you had the unbelievable pressure put on that Colombia team, whether it was the Soviet teams, anytime that there was some sort of, saber rattling, okay, Soviet team, you need to go out there and put on a damn show, especially for the hockey standpoint. And it was in North Korea, whenever you had that the North Korean team play in the World Cup, and Portugal started running up the score because what the hell, what can you do? And then very quickly, I think everybody, it was about 6 goals up when everybody understood what was happening. When somebody finally got in their ears and said, look, this is the first live televised event that's being broadcast widely in North Korea. Don't think anybody's really coming out of this well.
No.
So there was a tremendous cost to this, and for the U.S. Social media team, of all people, to be doing this is absolutely absurd. And if you are in public relations at all, you should abide by your own version of the Hippocratic Oath for any sort of large company, which is do no harm.
That's Bart, who does this for a living.
Yeah.
So that's Nick, that's why I'm just so flabbergasted. It wasn't even that it was it just, why are you the one creating the controversy? My company does some business in the Middle East, and I make sure every single time I post anything regarding it that, hey, this is kosher, that sounds bad, but this is cool to post, right? This is something that's still relevant to post. I mean, I do it even when I'm posting for stuff in Latin American countries or creating stuff for Latin American, culturally, you have to understand that anything involving something outside of your small little piece of the world is gonna mean things differently in those parts of the world that you're talking about, or anywhere outside of the United States, and even within the United States there are different things. It's such bad practice, and it's such this is a bad mistake.
It's PR 101.
Well, no, but it's not. There's a couple of things that factor into any sort of public relations. One is that you have to understand your brand, and you have to understand your position within the market. So, if you look at, we'll use Twitter as an example with Wendy's, right? Because, people say, oh, well, Wendy's does trolling. Well, Wendy's is not the #1 fast food chain in America. They're
also a fast food chain.
Yeah, and they're punching up, right? So they're punching up. They're not worried about their what their brand is in 36 different nations and so forth. So they can afford to do this sort of trolling thing. But if you are a major Fortune 500 brand, you are not engaging in these sort of questionable social media tactics. The United States, especially with where they are in the world and sort of the reputation that follows with the stars and the stripes, you don't need to punch down. You don't punch down.
No.
Right? You can make fun of yourself. You can make fun of your own deal. You can there are 500 different ways that you can raise your profile without doing a ha ha ha, he he he, look, we're going to poke the bear. And there's no reason to do that, because you are geopolitically have the stronger hand. Do no harm. And unless somebody from the State Department comes in and says, okay, hey, here's what's going to happen, which is a direct violation of FIFA's government interference laws, just post the damn flag as it is and call it good. That's the thing. Look, Jason Nick's point. If you want to put the USMNT symbol up and put a picture of Taylor Swift on there or something, I have fun with that. Do something for yourself, but don't punch down, do no harm. U.S. soccer, whether it was intentional or it was an error, failed. You have one shot to get it right in social media because screenshots live forever. It's always stored on a server. You must get it right. And look, when I was at Turner, we had an intern who it was Iowa State game, and God bless her, she put up the Iowa State symbol instead of the Hawkeye. And I got a phone call bright and early in the morning. Hey, you screwed up. And as much as I wanted to say I didn't screw up, intern screwed up. No, she was under my watch.
Therefore,
I screwed up. And so whoever this person is who did this, I don't want you to lose a paycheck, but you don't need to you've lost your right to post things without significant oversight going forward. So if you want micromanagement, this is how you get micromanagement. Congratulations.
Yep. Bart, you were in like added extra time. You were in AET here this morning.
He's in Qatari extra time.
Yeah, no kidding. When do you turn into a pumpkin because of your real worldness, sir?
I mean, I'm kind of managing a few things right now, so.
Okay. All right. Because, like I said, I don't want
topics though.
I don't want you to get. I don't.
If you have any last questions, throw them at me.
Yeah. If there's anything. All right. So let me go back into the Twitch pitch, Bart, before you go. And since we are in poli-sci down here, AF Waller. When your opponent is making a mistake, don't interrupt them, I think is the Sun Tzu quote from The Art of War. I think it was originally attributed to Napoleon. But Iran had their own political issues with their players in the anthem. We should have just left them alone with that. Now their players may be more motivated against us because we look like crass jerks. My point, I think, is the same as Nick's, which is that Iranian people were standing up to the regime, and now we did something dumb that may focus them more against us instead.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, here's the thing. So in America, our view of Iran for a long time was the Iron Sheik, coming in and performing dastardly deeds on WWF Saturday mornings, right? Mm-hmm. And then it was these cartoonish characters who were just these, in various action movies, and Chuck Norris riding on, rocket launching dirt bikes, and the Delta Force movies. But over in Iran, it's very different. For the Natanz nuclear facility hack that released Stuxnet on the world, they attribute that to us, and that was very recent. Just do a quick Google of Operation Olympic Games, one of the most massive cyber war efforts in human history. They attribute that to us and another particular actor who won't be named here, and that's very real to them. When you have nuclear scientists getting assassinated in the streets, the regime goes up and says, it's the Americans, it's the Americans, it's the Americans. They have full murals of death to America. And so for us, we kind of look at this like, oh God, this is so stupid. But for the regime over there, it is a massive black eye on the largest, on the largest media stage of them all. Mm-hmm. And you're not allowing it to be 11 on 11. You're turning it now into regime versus regime. You're trying to SEC-ify this thing that you don't need to be doing it. This isn't the Paul Feinbaum show. This is the World Cup, and regimes are trying to make their claims to their legitimacy. Yeah,
regime superiority through athletics. Yeah.
Well, it's not even that. It's not even regime superiority. It's regime. It's just more of a solidification of, hey, you may have seen this stuff on the news of all these riots and whatnot, but we are strong. We are here. We are not going anywhere, and the outside world cannot come after us. Something as stupid as this little flag incident gives them all the kerosene they need to burn it down.
Absolutely.
Which is why it's so damn stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and honestly, Nick, I think what makes this the most stupid is, again, the players and coaches for the U.S. men's national team who have zero decision-making power in these things.
Yep.
Now are the ones who have to deal with it.
And for it, yeah.
I think Tyler Adams he is an incredibly smart young man who clearly has a good head on his shoulders and gave a fantastic response to the question about Iran trying to be like, well, in the United States, they treat black people poorly, which is valid, but they're not getting into that. Right. But he is still ill-equipped to answer questions about international relations between an authoritarian regime and the state that they deem the biggest evil in the world.
Yeah. It's like, unless he has a degree in international relations and
Islamic studies and Arabic and all these things, and religious studies, like all these, like the kid is a very good, smart soccer player.
Mm-hmm. And you're in these situations where you have to answer these gotcha questions because they're allowed to be asked.
Even Greg, who probably of anyone there, speaking, has the most understanding of the Iran-U.S. relations, is still ill-prepared to answer these questions.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right.
I mean, that is the thing that just this was so stupid.
There's 500 different ways to handle this matchup, and I think the smart walking into. We have sort of this, and God, I'm going to set the room on fire. When there's this sort of idea that, machismo and, carry the big stick, you put your shoulders back and swagger into a room is the one way that you showcase your dominance or your alphahood or whatever. Look, the number one way to show strength is by not showing fear and extending an open hand. And that is the number one way that you show strength. And I think that the best way for the U.S. men's national team to handle this and to take the pressure off of themselves immediately is that when they do the national anthems, you do the whole thing, and immediately it's more than just the general handshake, tap on the shoulder. Give these guys big hugs and let them know, all right, let's go. Like we're equals on the field, let's play. And handle it that way and just let it go and just play the game. But maybe a little bit more right after the national anthem, the hug, the handshake. Hey, look, mutual respect. We're going to look each other in the eyes and we're going to compete as players, not as militaries, not as a political apparatus, and just extend the game that way.
Yeah. As athletes and not geopolitical objects trying to reinforce a regime idea.
Yes, exactly. Because otherwise it gets really stupid. And look, and to go in the other directions here, because we could do a whole damn show on this.
I know he did a whole damn half hour on it just now.
Herdman for Canada. To Burns' point, look. If you go and you talk trash and you say, we're going to do this to Croatia, we're going to do that to Croatia, and you get ran, brother, you got to sit there and you got to shake the hand. And you got to say, yep, ran my mouth. We messed around and found out. And so I'm probably going to think twice about that, saying some things like that, before
you didn't lose 1-0 in a valiant effort.
No. You were up 1-0 and lost 4-1.
You got your rear end handed to you all the way back to the shores of St. Lawrence River. Like you got absolutely you got dismissed in great fashion, which, to be fair, didn't necessarily deserve that. I think the Canadian team played much better than any of the score lines predicted this tournament. But hey, at the end of the day, the World Cup is about winning. And all of your, I've said it multiple times, Canada outperformed both the XGs in both directions, both for and against during qualifying. I think they got everything that needed to go their way, went their way during qualifying, and that's fantastic. Congratulations on qualifying for the World Cup, Canada, but this is a different stage, and everyone who's ever been through CONCACAF knows that.
Yep. Jarrett, what do you think about John Herdman up 1-0, losing 4-1?
Encapsulating everything that has been said, I had a boss tell me one time, you can put a note on your social media accounts that my comments do not represent my employers, but when you open your mouth, you still are. And John Herdman John Herdman decided to mouth off. On the scale of he decided to redact around, and he found out. And yeah, and to Bart's point, like they outperformed a lot of metrics coming into this. It was a magical 2 years for Canada to do what they did in qualifying, getting through the octagon. It was awesome. There's a level of regression to the mean that comes with really any sport. They hit that. They went through the Belgian game feeling like they should have gotten something out of that game. They probably should have. But they probably got stuff out of games in CONCACAF where they maybe shouldn't have. And maybe that's the regression hitting at the wrong time for you. It's also different opponents, different challenges, man. It's different matchups. It's different mentalities. We were talking about this in Green Room chat after the game yesterday of, Croatia's been there. Croatia didn't flinch. Like, that's Alphonso Davies had one of the coolest moments we're going to see in the World Cup. For Canada to score and for him to have that level of excitement, absolutely awesome, really magical moment. Croatia didn't flinch.
Nope.
They just got to work. Canada flinched.
Yeah.
Croatia's been there. Canada hasn't. Just kind of nut up and grab the moment and realize, hey, this next game doesn't mean anything, but you've worked to build something. Now keep your mouth shut and go play. Just go play at this point. Take all the experiences that come with what happened at this World Cup and keep your mouth shut and go play. I know you're trying to pump up your guys. You gotta be careful where you fire that rocket off. You can't just aim it at random buildings.
No. And to Will's point, you'd love to see what the Croat tabloids have to say today after the picture that was posted on the front page of, I guess, their version of the New York Post with a naked Photoshop John Herdman with a Canadian flag over his mouth and his private parts. And, Herdman, once again, I can't remember the exact quote, but I think that he gave the photo a little more credit because he said that he was fatter than the photo that he was given in his representation. Something like that, trying to discuss the photo. But yeah, I wonder what the Croat tabloids have to say today with after the result that happened, up 1-0 and lose 4-1. So
look, there's a ton of jokes that they could trot out there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the number one thing is that the biggest joke here is Herdman. I mean, that's it. That it's that you have essentially what is a golden age of Canadian men's talent. That you were finally able to get to the world, to the World Cup, and it should be, they were competitive, no matter how we want to say it or not. They went up early on Croatia, and obviously there were questions about how long that gas tank was going to hold out playing at that level. And then, skill took over and ran them off the field. But Canada, the federation, the Canadian Federation has screwed up on a couple of different fronts leading up to this, where they, we're probably not going to make the tournament, so let's just not worry about spending that money on those new kits, So, the Canadian Federation really needs to take a long look at itself and say, okay, well, who exactly is making the decisions here on how, from a kid perspective. I'm trying to find ways of saying this without profanity because, my God, it was botched at such an epic level.
That's true.
Where even our own federation doesn't believe we're going to make it. And then to have, so you already have this sort of plucky underdog story. You're Canadian. Everybody loves Canadians worldwide. And this is where Herdman should have really turned on the Canadian charm and been like, oh, sorry. And, shook the hand and got a laugh out of it and made some jokes and, offered to send, the Croatians
maple syrup and things like that.
Yeah, a few cases of Labatt's Blue and some maple. But instead, he walks off because he's being a little some expletive. And it's just, you can't, I'm sorry you lost in that way. I am, but if you talk trash and you get punched in the mouth, you got to get up and acknowledge that it happened. And Herdman needs to do that. And the Canadian Federation needs to acknowledge its significant missteps along the way, because you are probably going to keep this group together maybe one more cycle, and that's it. So from a talent identification standpoint, from, putting the full backing of the Federation behind it, from the men's and women's perspective, because God knows that the Canadian women's team can certainly develop some talent. So the Federation needs to look at itself and decide what they want to be going forward.
And here's the, I don't know if you guys heard this after the match, but our buddies at Tuforsata caught up with the head coach for Croatia, Zlatko Dalic, after the match. Did the Canadian coach congratulate you on your victory? Quote, and once again, this is from Croat newspapers. This is their reporting. I haven't seen the Canadian coach. He didn't show up. He didn't congratulate me. I was brought up to always congratulate my opponent on his victory. The gentleman is angry. He obviously is a quality coach, but he still needs to learn decency and sports culture. So Zlatko Dalic actually said that. I mean, after the handshake and the match was, there was a handshake, I think, after the match was over. But, yeah, so that's what Zlatko Dalic said about John Herdman after the match itself. Yeah. So Herdman might have gone 2 for 2. Yeah,
but CONCACAF, depending on how this game with Iran goes down with the U.S., CONCACAF, these teams need to look at themselves, and the federations need to look at themselves and decide who they want to be and the directions they want to go in going forward, especially the Canadian and the Mexican side, because the Mexican side has been in a decline for a long time. Especially look no further than when they hired Sven-Goran Eriksson to be the manager way back then, right? And that was initially their first waving of the flag, saying, "Hey, the way that we're doing things isn't working." And that was at a time when you had Mexican players in almost all of the major leagues, right? I don't know if you had one at that time in Serie A or not, but you certainly had them in La Liga and the Premier League and maybe Ligue 1. But you have an opportunity now, to reshape things. I know people are mad at Tata Martino. I get it, but the Federation needs to do a better job of identifying young Mexican talent, putting them into situations where they can be competitive early on and not become Italy by only playing older players at the highest club level, the domestic club level, and by trying to move these big name star players and have them clogging up spots for as long as they have. You got to change that. You're not going to set yourself up for success in the long run, and they need to identify who can come in and what is the Mexican style of play going to be. Because I remember a time when Mexico showed up on the national stage, and regardless of how much of an underdog they were a danger to win that game. I don't care who they were playing against, because they brought the ruckus every time. I don't see that anymore. Yeah, I just don't.
You have a staring contest with anybody. It's like you're not afraid of Mexico anymore.
No,
you're literally not afraid of Mexico. It's like, yeah, okay, fine, yeah, that's cool. We're going to play Mexico. Great, we'll run them off. We'll run them off.
Yeah, we're going to Azteca. Okay, cool.
Okay. Yeah, cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, field trip. Jarrett Byrne came in. He says Herdman also found out that if you play a match with an empty midfield, MLS style, against the top-notch team, you get run. Also, how did he not start Ismail Kone? He made some bad decisions in the tournament, like Davies taking the pen. So, Byrne, Jarrett, is letting Herdman have it as well.
I think everybody's letting Herdman have it at this point. He deserves it. I mean, he made mistakes throughout the tournament on the field and the press. Way he conducted. I mean, it seems like Canada got a little drunk on their own supply after the qualifications.
Yes.
And like I said, it was a match.
Jarrett, that's 100% happened.
Go ahead.
That's 100% what happened. They thought, oh, look at this. We won the CONCACAF all this crap, and great for them. They're having a fantastic cycle of Canadian soccer, both men's and women's. But at the end of the day, we know this, Jarrett. CONCACAF is not the World Cup for a lot of reasons. Some of it's more difficult, but a lot of it is not, because the problem that Herdman and Canada came up against is you can do those little gimmicks and you can run on rah and being, team oriented and fun when you're playing El Salvador, when you're playing Honduras. You can't do that when you have Luka frickin' Modric lining up against you.
And his monstrous calves.
You can't do that when Perisic and the rest of the Croatian team that is just so talented playing in top leagues around the world is the other side.
Yeah. No.
Let's take this to the greatest television show to ever exist, Most Extreme Elimination Challenge.
Oh!
Look, CONCACAF and the World Cup, the Gold Cup, Confederations Cup, all of these are different games. They are to be approached different ways. You don't use the same strategy at every game for MXC, would you? You wouldn't use the same strategy in everything.
No.
You have to have a different strategy, a different mentality for all of these different competitions that you're going to have to deal with. To your point, we don't approach a game with Croatia the same way you approach it with El Salvador or even Mexico. When you're playing Mexico in the frozen tundra of hell, Canada, it's not the same game. And you can't approach it the same way. You have to have more than one tool in the toolbox.
You can't do Boulder Dash the same way that you do Avalanche. You just can't do that.
Nope. But it's the Canadians, again, credit to the Canadians for the way that they handled qualification. They did it the right way. Mm-hmm. They scheduled games where they needed to in order to give themselves the best shot. As much as I hate that the U.S. does this, like when they're like, okay, we're going to go play in Minnesota in sub-zero temperatures. To me that
was unnecessarily right. Number of levels, but
yes. But in Canada, it's like, okay, do you want like the 7th level of hell cold, or do you want
do you want to play in Edmonton, which they did?
Yeah,
with the snow drifts, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
New Mexico was not okay with that.
No.
Right. But it's not like Canada has like tremendous wealth of options,
what was your other option? Toronto?
Yeah. So you can either be unbelievably cold or like, the lands of always winter, or you can be pretty damn cold. So it's not exactly like a vast array of tropical destinations that they could choose here. They don't have a Key West at their disposal. But Canada did what they had to do. To Jarrett's point, got high on their own supply, tried to bring that same energy to the World Cup, and they got ran. And good for them. They tried. They did their best. But, I don't know what else to tell you beyond that. You're going to have to figure out.
They played their ass off against Belgium.
They did.
Very large chunks of that game.
They did.
But Jarrett, Nick, like what we're finding out with the U.S., at the end of the day, you still got to win.
Yes.
You do. Yes. Just win, baby.
Yes.
Like Al Davis would have been an amazing coach for the U.S. national team is what I'm learning.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
He would have had it. Well, he would not have chosen, even though he would not have chosen nepotism for the manager selection.
My son
Mark, the fastest damn team you've ever seen on earth. Though, my God, his winger could have been Darius Hayward Bay playing the wingback.
Yep.
I love that.
Give me somebody who can do a 4.240 on the outside. Okay, great.
Have you seen him run?
He would be trying to recruit Gareth Bale yesterday.
That's right. You got the. We can think up a relative of his in the United States, right? Come on, we can make this happen.
Have you seen his 40 time? That's all that matters. We want him to run verts. We're going to put 4 up top. We're going to have everybody run verts and just bomb it forward. That's what we're going to do.
And he would have done like the whole old PowerPoint projector whenever he's trying to make his point. It would have been, oh God, it would have been glorious. But Canada is now at a spot where they have to figure out what step B, right? We've done A, which is qualify for a World Cup. Now what's B? Right? How do we build upon this? We don't want to go into the negatives on this and have to rebuild from scratch. We need to go to what's option B. Costa Rica, it's been known for a long time. They build a funnel effect. No matter what happens anywhere else on the pitch, it all goes down to you've got to beat our large Costa Rican son in between the pipes, right?
Which they have a lot to figure out with that now.
Exactly. So they've got to figure out what's next for them. Mexico, they have the talent is
old.
there, but they've got to figure out how do we get younger and better now, playing a style that encapsulates who we are. We're not trying to get Sven-Goran Eriksson. We're not trying to get the next Tata Martino. We're not trying to get, somebody like a Colombian manager or another Argentine or Peruvian. We need to get a Mexican manager in here because that's how we need to do this thing. Because we need to identify our nation's playing style on the national stage. Greg Berhalter is going to have to figure out how to put the ball in front of the net in a dangerous situation and put it past the keeper, right? There was a time when the U.S. had players who could do that. No problem. We have guys who can possess the ball. They can defend. They can transition. All that they can do really well. Got to put the damn ball in the back of the net now.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to occasionally show America that you're willing to go for the throat by not tapping your wrist and saying, hold. We're going to go, if you're going into a knife fight against an Englishman, brother, you better be ready to spill some blood to get the job done. You've got to be able to do this. You have England on the ropes. A talented a team that is, you have to be able to do that. You cannot go backwards. And CONCACAF across the board, you have a generation now in the U.S. men's national team that should be together, a cohesive group for the next cycle. If not, if everybody stays healthy, could push a large chunk of this group into 2 cycles. Mm-hmm. And to do that, you've got to start making yourself attractive as an attractive destination to more of these dual national players like Serginho Dest, like Weah, like all these other guys who
will give Greg Berhalter credit for treating it like college football and trying to bring in those dual nationals and having them stay closer to home and understand the idea of recruiting.
I also love the fact that he's got guys in here from MLS that, you need that because you need to show the domestic league there is a pathway to you, a pathway available for you through your domestic league. You don't have to go and play at Nice. You don't have to go and play at Juventus. You don't have to go and play at Roma or, any of, the English sides. You can play for Nashville. You can play for Atlanta. You can play for, NYCFC or whatever and make this squad. But Greg's going to have to show a little bit more of a cutthroat nature, in my opinion, if the U.S. wants to do something different. Because the tournaments like this are the ones you can do it in. Just like Japan, Korea in 2002, the U.S. got the semifinals on that? Was it the quarterfinals, the semifinals they got to in 2002? You can do that in these tournaments that are not in Europe or not in South America, where everybody's sort of on the most level playing field you're going to get, because you're not playing in Old Trafford, with all the nerves and everything that go with that. You're not playing at the Olimpico in Rome. You're not playing at the Maracanã in Brazil. You're playing at like some stadium that was built 6 months ago. Okay. We're all playing in this newfangled little facility.
Stadium 974, where we're just going to take a bunch of crates.
Yeah, exactly. Shipping crate stadium. But these
stadium makes me sad.
It does. A lot of the stadiums make me sad over there.
Hey, we're being clever.
I'll get into it because it makes me sad because I can't be happy about it because it's a really cool idea and a really cool idea that they've been able to figure out ways they'll hopefully be able to take the stadium apart and put it other places. I think it's a great model going forward for some of these stadiums that might need to be expanded above 30-some thousand. Yeah. But then you talk about why it was built, and I can't be that happy anymore.
Yep. But, for teams like the United States, for teams like Ghana, for teams like these sort of mid-tier teams, this tournament is the one where you're going to have your best shot at making the semifinals, and then at that point putting yourself in a position for something magical and stupid to happen. And so you have to take advantage of it. Greg Berhalter cannot pleated khaki his way through this tournament. And I feel like that's what, when I see him, it just gives me that vibe. But, don't go Mayo, don't go pleated khakis. If you're wearing some Air Force Ones, baby, put on the black Air Force One energy and the Nissan Altima energy and do something a little crazy and do something a little stupid. With that, I have to mute. I give the floor back to you guys.
See, this is what happens when we bring Nick out of the bullpen. And by the way, this is not just a one-time deal. Nick is whenever Nick can drop in on a daily basis.
Golden ticket.
Golden ticket. Well, I mean, yeah, as a part of the family, he's got golden ticket status. But I mean, I am anticipating. Here's my vision for the remainder of time. That Jarrett, when you tag out,
of time.
Yeah. When Jarrett, when you tag out traditionally at 9:55, then Nick tags in and is a part of the as a part of the processional with this hour number 2 going forward. And he's here to do geopolitics down here with Bart when Bart comes in, and he's trying to both be on our show for more than the 30 minutes he's traditionally here. I mean, I give Bart a lot of credit. Bart is like multitasking like nobody's business in between matches. And he's been hanging. Bart, let's see. Wow, I think this is a modern day record for Bart hanging out on the show at an hour and 20 minutes. And it's like
I'm just paying attention in the background while still doing work. So
yeah, see, and that's the thing. It's like with the match tomorrow, with a match tomorrow at 2:00. Let me ask you this, Bart. What's the plan for 2:00 tomorrow? Just trying to find someplace relatively quiet where you can yell in a room, or what?
No, I have tomorrow off. We'll be partying at Fido Midtown on Peachtree Street. So that's where I will be from about 8 a.m. onward. I'll probably work a little bit in the morning, but I have taken that day off. I've used my PTO for those days. That is for sure.
Okay. And so obviously, since you're going to be at Fido for breakfast, getting your nice English breakfast, I imagine at Fido, in addition to everything else.
Well, they don't have English breakfast at Fido because they're an Irish pub, and
then Irish breakfast then.
Man, John, you are going to end up in the bottom of a river somewhere, buddy.
Wow. All right. Well, I won't give the IRA your address, John. Don't worry. But no, I will be eating an English breakfast. They are an Irish breakfast.
Whoa, there he goes.
I'll be eating the Irish breakfast.
You too, huh?
Actually, their Irish breakfast is very good because they have really good. The blood puddings are very good there. So, shout out to Fido for a great Irish breakfast. But I'll probably be that as well as another part of Irish breakfast, which may or may not involve either a Guinness or something in my coffee. So we'll see.
That's just in the pacing. As long as there's pacing and there's carbs, I think you're okay. If you have the early start, I think. Yeah.
If I start off, I got to start off because by noon I am in full work mode. I can't be drunk and trying to organize 400 people in a bar. That is a lot.
Oh man.
Yes, I will be on barring an asteroid hitting the planet, I will be on Friday.
Yeah.
So my goal is for the for the foreseeable to be on this as much as humanly possible.
Yeah. So hour number 2, 10:00. If Nick is allowing Nick to do this, come in when Jarrett tags out at 9:55. Nick tags in at 10:00, and Nick is a part of hour number 2 as we go forward.
There we go.
So that's the plan. There is a procession happening. We have a match that is going to be going on that we'll all be watching at 11:00 and staring at the starting lineups for Brazil. And you look at it and you go, man, y'all are just average. I mean, with your lineup, it's here's the starting lineup, by the way, for Brazil: Alisson, Eder Militao, Thiago Silva, Marquinhos, Alexandro, Casemiro, Fred, Lucas Paqueta, Vinicius Jr., Rafinha, and Richarlison. That's your starting lineup.
Yeah.
On the bench, Dani Alves, Fabinho.
Did y'all see the British commentator who tried to say that their attack was better than Brazil's because the English players start over those Brazilian players at their club? And I'm going to go, do you not see that that's the problem why Chelsea sucks?
Boy. Yeah.
Well, and not just that, but a lot of English commentators, and this has happened since the beginning of time, continue to put club ball over the national team ball, and essentially say, hey, look, Man City, Man United, all this. If you play for these, you should automatically be, a collection of these guys should be the best players on the planet. And then they also wonder why they haven't really won an international tournament on the men's side in some period of time, right?
Mm-hmm.
But, the best club player does not always equal the best national team player.
Yes.
And that's, I'm sorry. It's just one of those things. There are players, who ball out of control for their club, and they cannot replicate that to save their lives when they put the national team kit on.
Well,
and you also
Mason Mount also doesn't ball out for Chelsea's, but they still think he's the best thing that's ever existed. So I don't know what their problem is.
I mean, we've all seen the memes, right? Where if it was, Massinho, it would be like he'd be like an 80 million euro player, but Mason Mount is 135 million euro because of the
especially inside the Premier League in an intra Premier League deal.
Right.
The jacked up rates for Premier League inside Premier League are just ridiculous, and that's the self-imposed value of Premier League teams on their own players dealing within the league is ridiculous.
But see, the thing is that we can all get mad at that individual for, allegedly sniffing metric tons of whiteout and then, posting his player theories. But in the end, how many stars are above the crest of for the 3 lines, right? There's 1 star, right?
How'd they win that, by the way?
Where was it again?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. And the thing is that one of the weakest Italy squads and that didn't even qualify for the World Cup managed to beat you on your own home soil in the Euros. Don't sit here and tell me about how great and awesome and amazing your squad is, because they have very good players on that team. I'm not saying that they're not good players, but to sit there and put
players versus unit.
Yeah, there's a big, big difference. Ask the Brooklyn Nets about that, right? You can have the best players. It doesn't mean anything if you can't put a squad together that can play in a cohesive manner. So I think England's greatest enemy is England itself. It always has been. It always will be. But, this Brazilian side has there's just something about these guys that even with the theatrics and dramatic operatic nature of Neymar, removed from this equation, you have an unbelievable amount of talent on there, and especially considering Thiago Silva. Man, he's no spring chicken, man. He was doing big things for AC Milan like 10 years ago, and he's still handling his business at a national team level. And then you have Dani Alves, who is one of my all-time heroes on, from a defensive perspective, really showcasing in the early days what a wingback could do. As far as being a goal-scoring threat, and he's still made this roster, man. I mean, there's something to be said about it.
Yep. Okay. 2-minute warning because of the Brazil match coming up at 11 o'clock. Jarrett, last thoughts for today from what we've seen and what you're anticipating.
Drugs, lots and lots of drugs, lots and lots of chaos. Hopefully it's not 2 boring games after what we've just had. I'd like to see more of a high off of this. And we can talk about this game coming up after we get through tomorrow. We'll do it all together, hold each other's hands if we have to. The last game in the group we just watched is going to be Ghana and Uruguay. Who is ready? Because Ghanaian Twitter is already inviting Luis Suarez to step outside. They drop a pin. They just want to have a chat.
Yes. Oh,
they're happy to give him a hand because he gave them one. And my God, that game is going to be a small war that is going to unfold for 90 minutes. Man, like that group could get really weird about like what if either one of them are in a position to advance and they just start sacrificing bodies left and right. This is going to be stupid.
What's going to happen when Uruguay beats Portugal today?
Oh,
madness.
Look, I am not a believer in Portugal in the same sense that I'm not a believer in Belgium. I'm waiting for more and more people to try and convince myself and everyone else and themselves that Belgium is fine. Because Belgium is fine is basically that is basically the modern there is no war in Ba Sing Se.
Yes.
That's where I'm at with that.
There you go. Mark Keeler, final thoughts as you multitask.
Listen, final thoughts is today looks like it's going to be fun if they can repeat what has happened in the first two matches, because holy cow, there have been so many goals scored. Hopefully this carries over to tomorrow and the U.S. is able to find the goal more than once, because it's been a struggle. So, it is a great opportunity for these young men to go get a win in a World Cup match that means a lot. It feels very much like 2010. Obviously we got that draw against England as well in that tournament. So it feels a lot like that. And I just hope that I will say my prediction for tomorrow's game, unlike the game against Algeria, we won't have 22 shots. Okay. I also don't think that the Iranian goalkeeper is going to be making as many saves as that Algerian goalkeeper did back in 2010. So I hope that means good things for us.
No doubt. Nick Alifi, final thoughts.
As much as we talk about these great young men who are competing, I want to talk about the old men who it's going to be pretty much their last tournament. So it's going to be all gas, no brakes from here on, because you have Portugal trying to will their guy to the promised land. Yeah. They're trying to get him across the line. They're trying to get, Argentina's trying to get Messi across the line. Brazil's trying to get Neymar across the line. And it's the same thing with Uruguay and everyone else. So look, some of these players, these guys who've been occupied this sort of pantheon of greatness for the past 15 plus years, they're on the way out. So I hope these teams go all gas, no brakes, and put on a show. So that way, if it's a swan song, you're going out on your shield. Make it happen.
All right. And so one final thing from me before we go with the match already underway with Brazil and Switzerland. South Korea, 35 open play crosses in the game against Ghana. 15 of those crosses found a teammate, which has never been bettered in a FIFA World Cup match in recorded history since 1966. Stat of the day.
I miss the Vuvuzelas. That's my last thing.
I do not miss the Vuvuzelas one bit, because they have filtered their way into high school football stadia, and it's just as impactful there.
My brother was one of those boys this year.
Your brother's a hero. I hope he knows that.
I think so, too. I'm proud of him.
For Bart, for Jarrett, for Nick, I'm just John. Go enjoy the rest of the matches. The rest of the day we'll be back at it 9:05 tomorrow. Since it's the end of the show, Mucha Plata, y'all. Play it safe, everybody. That means I get to do this. We'll see you at 9:05. Happy holidays, according to Bart's mug. Bye.